everyone, I am Ara Marie Sumili and now let's continue our discussion. Have you ever struggled to remember something important like homework, assignments, or instructions? Or if you found it hard to focus during a lesson? Well, this topic will help you understand why. So please listen carefully. Now, let's define learning disabilities and ADHD. Learning disabilities are neurological differences affecting how the brain processes information. This isn't a matter of intelligence or effort, it's about how the brain works. While ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is a separate but related condition that affects attention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. But remember, both are common and manageable. Difficulties with remembering and focusing can make schoolwork much harder, even with good teaching and average intelligence. This isn't about laziness, it's about genuine challenges in processing information and managing attention. Next is learning disabilities and their characteristics and types. The common challenges faced by students with learning disabilities are problems with listening, reasoning, memory, attention, selecting relevant information, and processing visual and auditory information. Students with learning disabilities, or LD, face unique challenges that affect their performance across multiple academic and social areas. Here's how their core difficulties impact specific subjects and social skills, along with the role of self-esteem and behavior problems. First, reading difficulties or listening and memory issues. Students may struggle with phonemic awareness or the ability to hear and manipulate sounds, which is critical for decoding words. Memory problems make it hard to retain sight, words, or remember sequences in stories. The other one is attention and processing challenges. Difficulty focusing on text and processing it efficiently leads to slow reading speed and poor comprehension. Struggling with fluency and comprehension often result in poor vocabulary development and difficulty understanding written instruction. The second one is writing difficulties. Reasoning and selecting relevant information. Writing requires organizing thoughts logically, which can be difficult for students who struggle with reasoning and filtering relevant details. Memory and attention issues. Holding information in working memory while forming sentences can lead to disorganized, incomplete writing. Processing challenges. Poor fine motor skills or related to visual motor processing may also make handwriting laborious, further discouraging writing efforts. Students may have difficulty with grammar, spelling, and generating coherent essays or reports. Third, math difficulties, reasoning, and memory problems. Mathematics relies heavily on logical reasoning and memory for recalling formulas, number facts, and steps in multi-step problems. Attention and processing issues. Poor focus can lead to careless errors, while difficulty processing visual spatial information can cause trouble with aligning numbers or understanding geometric concepts. These challenges may result in difficulty grasping abstract concepts, solving word problems, and performing calculations accurately. Fourth, social skills challenges, listening and processing difficulties. Problems with auditory processing can affect a student's ability to follow conversations and social cues. Memory issues. Forgetting social norms or previous interactions can lead to misunderstandings and conflicts. Fifth, attention deficits. Difficulty maintaining attention in social settings may result in appearing uninterested or disengaged. Students may struggle with making and keeping friends, understanding social nuances, and participating in group activities, leading to isolation. 6. low self-esteem, and behavior problems, which is the constant struggles in academics, can lead to frustration and a sense of failure, which can erode confidence. Students may internalize their difficulties, believing they are not capable of success, resulting in avoidance of academic tasks. 7. Behavior problems. Frustration and anxiety may manifest as disruptive behaviors, defiance, or withdrawal. These behaviors are often coping mechanisms to mask their struggles and avoid situations where they feel inadequate. The combination of low self-esteem and behavior problems can create a cycle where academic difficulties and negative emotions reinforce each other, making intervention more challenging. But remember, learning disabilities are diverse. Not all students experience the same difficulties to the same degree. Some students might struggle primarily with reading, while others might have more difficulty with math or organization. Now, let's jump to diagnosis of learning disorders. Specific learning disabilities or SLDs are neurological conditions that affect how a person processes information. They can impact skills and individual may have average or above average intelligence. Two common SLDs are dyslexia and dyscalculia. First, dyslexia or reading difficulties is a learning disability that affects reading skills, makes it difficult to recognize words, spell correctly, and understand the written text. One of its characteristics are trouble identifying letters and sounds, difficulty blending sounds to form words or decoding, slow or inaccurate reading, struggling with spelling and writing, problems understanding what they read. People with dyslexia may mix up letters or find it hard to sound out words, making reading feel slow and frustrating. While dyscalculia or dyscalculia or math difficulties is a learning disability that affects math skills. It makes understanding numbers and mathematical concepts challenging. One of its characteristics are difficulty recognizing numbers and their values, problems with basic arithmetic or addition, subtraction, and etc. Struggling to remember math facts like multiplication tables, trouble understanding time, measurements, or spatial awareness. Confusion with math symbols like plus, minus, or equals. People with dyscalculia may mix up numbers, forget steps in calculations, or find it hard to grasp math concepts, even after practice. Again, dyslexia and dyscalculia are not related to intelligence. With the right support, tools, and teaching strategies, students with these learning disabilities can succeed academically. Now, let's jump to the next topic. It's about possible causes of learning disabilities. Learning disabilities or LDs arise from complex interactions of various factors, many of which affect brain development and function. Here are the key categories of possible causes. First is the genetic factors or heredity. Learning disabilities often run in families, suggesting a genetic component. Children with a family history of LDs are more likely to have similar challenges. Specific genes related to brain development and cognitive functions may be involved. Second one is the prenatal and perinatal factors, or during pregnancy and birth. Prenatal factors are exposure to alcohol, drugs, or smoking during pregnancy can affect the baby's brain development. Infections, example rubella, or maternal illnesses may increase the risk. Perinatal factors are complications during birth, such as oxygen deprivation or hypoxia, or premature birth can result in brain injury. Low birth weight and prolonged labor are also potential risks. Third, Postnatal factors or after birth. Head injuries or traumatic brain injuries is what we call the TBIS from accidents or falls can lead to cognitive impairments. Nutritional deficiency or lack of essential nutrients, especially in early childhood, can hinder brain development. Exposure to toxins can lead poisoning, and exposures to environmental toxins, example pesticides, can negatively impact cognitive functioning. Chronic illnesses or conditions like epilepsy or severe infections can also contribute. It is important to clarify that learning disabilities are not caused by external or controllable factors such as poor teaching or lack of effort. A child may struggle in school despite having excellent teachers and putting in significant effort. LDs are due to brain differences, not a lack of will or poor instructions. It is important to clarify that learning disabilities are not caused by external or controllable factors such as poor teaching or lack of effort, socioeconomic factors, and cultural or linguistic differences. Understanding these distinctions helps reduce stigma and encourages appropriate support and interventions. Next topic is about the assessment and identification of learners with learning disabilities and ADHD. Accurate assessment is essential for identifying learning disabilities and ADHD, allowing educators and specialists to provide the right support. Different types of assessment helps evaluate a student's strengths and weaknesses. First, the intelligence and achievement tests. These tests compares a student's cognitive abilities and academic performance to that of their peers. A significant gap between intelligence and achievement may indicate a learning disability. The purpose for this test is to identify discrepancies between a student's potential or intelligence and actual performance. Here are some examples of these tests. Wechsler's Intelligence Scale for Children or the WISC, Sanford Binet Achievement Test, on Wood-Johnson Test of Achievement, Kaufman Test of Educational Achievement or the KTEA. These tests reveal patterns of strengths and weaknesses, helping to diagnose specific learning disabilities. Second, Criterion Reference Test. These tests measures students' mastery of specific skills or knowledge against a predefined standard or benchmark, rather than comparing them to other students. The purpose for this is to assess whether a student has achieved certain learning objectives. Here are the examples. The state-mandated proficiency tests. Reading fluency or math skills assessment aligned with curriculum standards. They identify gaps in knowledge or skills that need targeted intervention. Third is the curriculum-based measurement or the CBM. CBM is an ongoing assessment method that tracks a student's progress in specific academic areas, such as reading, writing, or math. The purpose for this is to monitor progress over time and guide instruction. For example, weekly or monthly assessments in areas like reading fluency, example, words read per minute, or math accuracy. Tools like DeBoss or dynamic indicators of basic early literacy skills for early literacy. CBM provides immediate feedback, helping teachers adjust their instruction based on a student's progress.
ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So it is a condition that affects how a person pays attention and controls their actions. So what is ADHD? ADHD is a condition where a person may struggle to focus on tasks, be very active active or restless, act impulsively, meaning they might do things without thinking them through. So these behaviors can make it harder for them to perform well in school, complete tasks, or interact smoothly with others. So next is the characteristics of learners with ADHD. So first we have inattention or trouble focusing. In this part, the child or maybe a child doesn't seem to listen when spoken to. It also, a child finds it hard to stay focused and gets distracted easily. Next is hyperactivity or excessive energy. A child talks too much or moves constantly even when not appropriate. The third is impulsivity, acting without thinking. In this part, a child that doesn't wait for their turn during conversations or activities. They act emotionally, like having temper tantrums or outbursts. So we have comorbidity or related additional illness of ADHD. So comorbidity is the additional illness that a child might have. So we have 12. First is obsessive compulsive disorder. So obsessive compulsive disorder or OCD is a mental health condition where a person has frequent and strong thoughts that make them feel anxious. To relieve this anxiety, they might feel the need to perform certain actions repeatedly. These actions can be things like washing hands, checking things, or arranging items in a specific way. Next is oppositional defiant disorder or ODD. It is a mental health condition where a person, usually a child, frequently displays a pattern of angry, defiant, and uncooperative behavior towards authority figures such as parents, teachers, or other adults. This behavior is more intense and persistent than typical childhood rebellion. So next, we have a conduct disorder or CD. It is a mental health condition found in children and teenagers where they show a repeated pattern of aggressive, disruptive, and rule-breaking behavior. Next is bipolar disorder. So as we all know, bipolar is some kind of changing one behavior to another from time to time. So it is a mental health condition where a child experiences extreme mood swings. These mood swings include high periods known as mania or hypomania and low periods known as depression. So hypomania. So manic episodes, it is where a child or a person feels extremely happy, energetic, or overly confident. While ang depressed moment, it is a child or a person feels sad, hopeless, or tired. Example, a person like happy siya at this moment niya pagka at the next moment mo mukalit na siya og kanang kawalay gana, like malose interest siya, like maluya, or that is what we call a bipolar disorder. So next is dyslexia. It is a common learning difference that makes it harder for a child to read, write, and spell. It's not about intelligence. A child with dyslexia are just as smart as others, but their brains process language in a different way. So next we have tics or Tourette syndrome. So tics are sudden fast movements or sounds that a child do repeatedly without meaning to. They can be things like blinking, coughing, or jerking an arm. So Tourette syndrome, or TS, is a condition where a child has multiple tics for over a year. These tics can be motor tics or movements, or vocal tics, sounds. People with Tourette syndrome can't control these movements or sounds, and they might change over time. Asperger's syndrome. It is a type of autism that affects how a child socializes and communicates with others. Child with Asperger's often have strong interest in specific subjects and may prefer routine and structure. 8 is anxiety and depression. Anxiety and depression are two different mental health conditions, but they can occur together and share some common symptoms. Anxiety, it is a feeling of intense worry or fear about everyday situations. While depression, it is a feeling of deep sadness and a lack of interest in activity you once enjoyed. Number 9 is speech and language. When a child has ADHD, he or she may also experience speech and language difficulties. Difficulty in pronouncing words clearly, or it may include stuttering or speaking quickly. They also struggle with organizing thoughts and expressing them clearly. They also have difficulty understanding what others say or following complex instructions. Next is sleep disorders. Difficulty getting enough sleep. Like for example, a child with ADHD might lie awake for a long time before falling asleep. wake up frequently and then be tired the next day, making it hard for them to pay attention and stay calm. So 11, we have dyspraxia, also known as development coordination disorder, or DCD. It is a condition that affects a child's ability to coordinate physical movements. It can make activities that require fine motor skills like writing or gross motor skills like running more difficult. So in that part, like for example, a child kanang maglisod siya o kanang magbike or kanang very clumsy siya when doing things. Substance abuse. When someone uses drugs or alcohol in a harmful way, this means they use these substances too much or in a ways that cause problems in their life. So that's
Good day everyone. So today I will be discussing the causes of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. So ADHD is often described as neurologically based disorder, but research hasn't found consistent evidence linking it directly to brain damage or dysfunction. So ADHD has no exact cause, but there are several factors that are believed to contribute to its development. So the first one here is genetic factors. Family history is a risk factor for ADHD. So ADHD appears to run in families. So a person with family history of ADHD has a greater risk of developing it. So kung may family member nga na ADHD, possible sad nga naapa may laing paryente nga naapoy ADHD. And the second one is environmental factors, links to conditions like fetal alcohol syndrome, prenatal cocaine exposure, and lead poisoning. So certain conditions during pregnancy or early life might contribute to ADHD. For example, exposure to alcohol, cocaine, or lead can increase the risk. So if ang buros mo consume og alcoholic drinks and mogamit og cocaine, is maapektuhan pod ang development sa bata and possible nga makuha ni nga syndrome or disorder. Next, let's move on to identifying ADHD. So one of the tools that teachers can use in order to identify learners with ADHD is the Vanderbilt ADHD Diagnostic Teacher Rating Scale. It focuses on identifying symptoms as well as other related conditions such as oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder, anxiety, or depression. So there are 3 presentations of ADHD. The first one is inattentive subtype. It is characterized by difficulties in focusing, organizing tasks, remembering details, and frequent forgetfulness. So according po sa study, kani nga subtype sa ADHD is very common daw sa girls. Dali daw makalimot o maglisod og focus. Next is hyperactive impulsive subtype. It involves behaviors like excessive fidgeting, restlessness, interrupting others, and acting without thinking. So this type is more noticeable po, especially sa boys, as the symptoms are often disruptive in classrooms or social settings. And the last one is combined subtype. Both types of behaviors are present. So it is the most common subtype po. It includes significant symptoms of both inattention and hyperactivity or impulsivity. So in this type of ADHD, it is present ang characteristics sa inattentive o sa subtype of hyperactive subtype. So let's go back sa Vanderbilt. So how does this Vanderbilt works? So teachers will observe and rate a child's behaviors in the classroom setting. So the behaviors are grouped into categories reflecting different subtypes of ADHD. Behaviors are rated based on how often they occur, never, occasionally, often, and very often. So to meet a specific ADHD subtype, a child must show a certain number of behaviors scored as often or very often within the categories. So for inattention, 6 or more behaviors from questions 1 to 9. So ang specific nga bata nga ng ADHD garated sa teacher using the Vanderbilt og 6 or more ka often or very often from numbers 1 to 9, then kana nga bata is considered having inattention subtype sa ADHD. Next is hyperactivity, impulsivity, 6 or more behaviors from questions 10 to 18. So kani nga subtype pod og 6 or more gihapon ka often or very often from numbers 10 to 18, then makonsider siya nga naay hyperactivity subtype. Then the last one is combined subtype, 6 or more behaviors in both categories. So if ang bata is naka-score again or giratean siya sa teacher na pod og 6 or more ka often and very often from all the items nga nasa Vanderbilt, then ihang type pod sa ADHD is combined subtype. So once ADHD is identified, the next step is treatment. So there are two main ways to manage ADHD. The first one is medication. So usually, stimulant medications is the most common treatment for ADHD. So these medications help improve focus and reduce impulsive behaviors. So naada specific katambal nga ipainom sa bata nga na ADHD to help them cope up with it. And next is behavioral interventions. Behavioral strategies focus on teaching and reinforcing skills to manage ADHD symptoms in every situations. So these behaviorally based interventions are equally important. So these strategies are designed to help children manage their symptoms effectively at home and in school. So some examples of these interventions include positive reinforcement. So this involves rewarding good behavior to encourage its repetition. So rewards can be verbal praise, tokens, or small privileges. For example, if the teacher praises the student kanay ADHD for raising their hand instead of shouting, possible nga ma-change day ang ilahang behavior. Since naka-receive man sila og good comment from their teacher, so ilahan na ginabalik-balik og buhat to receive na pod og good comments and praises. So this action would lead to change in their behavior. Next is task modification. So breaking large or complex tasks into smaller manageable steps helps individuals to stay focused and feel overwhelmed. So if maghatag day ka og task sa mga bata nga na ADHD, is dapat step by step nimo siya og paghatag aron dali makasabot and dali nila nga mabuhat ang task. Next is classroom adjustment. This involves changes in the learning environment to reduce distractions and make instructions clearer. Next is teaching self-control. So this strategy helps children recognize their impulsive behaviors and learn to manage them. So techniques might include mindfulness exercises or teaching the child to pause and think before acting. For example, a parent might teach a child to count to 1 to 5 before speaking when they feel the urge to interrupt a conversation, so that they would help pod, so that dili sila maka instead nga mo diretso sila interrupt sa mga conversations, kabalo na sila mohulat sa ilang turn ug kano sa mo sila mo istorya. Now let's move on to typical and atypical development. So this table presents the typical and development of attention and provides a detailed understanding of what to expect at each age range. But before that, what does this typical and atypical development mean? So typical, it refers to someone that shows the most usual characteristics of a person, while atypical development refers to a pattern of growth and development that differs significantly from what is considered typical or expected for a child's age and stage. So this table here presents the atypical development, or the typical development of attention. So this table helps the teachers and parents to assess their child, whether their child is normal or they have late development. So from 0 to 1 year old, the child is extremely distractible. So during the first year, the baby's attention span is very short and easily diverted by external stimuli such as lights, sounds, or movement. So ang babies cannot focus on a single activity for long, and kaning distractibility is normal and it reflects the brain's early stage of development. Next is 1 to 2 years old, concentrates on tasks of their own choosing. So toddlers start showing the ability to focus on activities they find interesting, such as playing with their favorite toy. However, ilang ability to focus is still limited and often tied to their intrinsic motivation or curiosity. So on a stage, it shows the beginnings of selective attention but dili pa siya well developed. Next is 2 to 3 years old. Can shift attention from one activity to another with adults' help. So at this age, children can begin transitioning from one task to another, but they require guidance and prompts from adults. For example, if ang bata gadula ay nanimog, ali na bibi, hipuson na nato ang toys, and giuna nimo og punit ang toys and gibutang sa basket, so possible nga ang bata mo shift ilang attention sa imuhang gibuhat. So musuhid na siya og punit sa toys and ibutang pod niya sa basket ang toy. So this stage highlights their growing ability to adjust their focus when external support is provided. 3 to 4 years old can switch attention without adults' help. So preschoolers gain the ability to independently redirect their focus from one activity to another without requiring adult intervention. For example, nag-color ang bata and nahuman na siya siyang gibuhat, and nakadecide siya to start playing with blocks on its own. So ani nga age, kaya na nila mag-focus, kaya na nilang humanon ilahang gibuhat, and after mangita na po sila laing lingaw or dulaan without the help of their parents. So this is a sign of growing cognitive flexibility and self-regulation. Next is 4 to 5 years old. So attention is two-way. So at this age, children can share their attention between two simultaneous tasks or people. For example, they can listen to a teacher's instruction while drawing sila or gadula. So this development reflects their ability to engage interactive attention, which is essential for social and learning contexts. Lastly is 5 to 6 years old. Attention is established and sustained. So by this age, children are capable of maintaining focus on a single task for a longer period, even in the presence of distractions. So they can follow classroom activities, complete puzzles, or listen to a story without frequent lapses in attention. So these milestones indicates a mature level of attention control which supports readiness for formal learning.